In this video, I'm going to show you guys a couple of examples on introduction to proofs involving parallel lines. So before we start with the question, it is essential, it is a must for you guys to remember um, the congruent properties of the angles when we have two parallel lines and a transversal. All right, so the examples I'm going to show you guys in this video, they are all about parallel lines. So we need to know the properties of alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, corresponding angles, vertical angles. So all of the properties that we have talked about, it is super important for you to remember them, so that we don't have to. We can so that we just have to focus on the proof, rather than figuring out what the property is. Okay, so if you're not sure, if by this time you're not sure, I would recommend you to maybe write down the properties somewhere, and then you can constantly refer back to them. But eventually, you must remember the properties. Okay. All right. Without further ado, let's get started. So this is this question that we have right now. We have x and y, and there are two parallel lines. And then we have these 8 angles here. Some of them are alternate interior. 2 and 6 are alternate interior angles. 3 and 7 are alternate interior angles. 1 and 5 are alternate exterior. 4 and 8 are alternate exterior. 5 and 7, they are corresponding. 6 and 8 corresponding. 3 and 1 corresponding. 4 and 2 corresponding. So all the angles that I've just mentioned, all the pairs that I've just mentioned, they're all congruent to each other. Okay, so that was a quick review on the different properties. Now, it is given that angle 8 is congruent to angle 4, and they want us to prove that line X is parallel to line Y. Okay, so when we are doing questions like this involving proof, they always give us some information. So we cannot make any assumption. We can only use what's given to us to prove what they want us to prove. Okay. So for now, we cannot even though the diagram looks as if x and y are parallel, but we need to prove that they're parallel using the properties that hopefully we remembered, right? So let's look at 8 and 4. So 8 is over here, 4 is over there. Let me ask you guys a question. 8 and 4, what type of what's the angle relationship between them? I hope your answer is alternate exterior, right? Alternate exterior. So, and they told us that angle 8 and angle 4 are congruent. That's what that symbol means, congruent, which means the angle measures are the same. So if the alternate exterior angles are congruent, what does that say about the line X and line Y? They would be parallel. In other words, we are using the property alternate exterior angles are congruent. We're using that property to help us to prove that line X and Y are parallel. And that's what I have to type in here. So let's start typing. So this is given. I'm gonna say, okay, given angle 8 is congruent to angle 4. Okay, and the reason, this is the part where, so eventually we will come across all of these properties. Okay, so that's why I said it is for now it is always easier to remember bit by bit rather than everything at once before the test or before the exam. So please remember the properties as we go. So angle 8 congruent to angle 4, that is given to us, and you click on next line. So now we can say, okay, So these are alternate exterior angles, and if they are congruent, so if they're congruent, let's take a look at the reason. If you look at the reason, let me bring the window up. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see something that mentions two things actually. If lines are parallel, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. And the next one is if alternate exterior angles are congruent, then lines are parallel. So they sound very similar, but they are quite different actually. Okay. If you're not sure what they're talking about, feel free to click on that question mark. If you click on that, they will explain. They will give you a brief description on what it is. But I think we did enough practice in class to know what they are talking about. So, but if you need help, there's always that description there to help you out. Okay, so out of these two, they both mention exterior angles, but which one do we use? In this case, well, what we know for sure is the alternate exterior angles are congruent, right? Alternate exterior angles are congruent. And if that's true, then the lines are parallel, so I'm going to choose that. So in this case, because of this reason, the alternate exterior angles 8 and 4, they're congruent, so the lines are parallel. Which lines are we talking about here? It will be line X and line Y, right? Line X and line Y. So I just have to type line X. This symbol here represents parallel, okay? Line Y. Okay, so the last thing that we have to do is, okay, which line? Which line do you see? Is it line 1 or is it line 2? Which line do we use to say that alternate exterior angles are congruent? Our alternate exterior angles that we are talking about specifically, they are 8 and 4, which is line 1 over here, right? So I'm gonna choose, okay, so the alternate exterior angles that I'm talking about is line 1. This is super important, okay? We need to know exactly what we are referring to. So in this case, we're referring to the alternate exterior angles, which is exactly our angle 8 and 4. So you can think of this as a stepping stone, right? So the stepping stone is 8 and 4. So we step on that because we know that they're alternate exterior angles, and it's given that they are congruent. So because of this reason, this property, I can say line X and Y are parallel. But this is the first line that I have here. The first line that I have here, that is my stepping stone. That line, this line, talks about my alternate exterior angles. So I'm going to choose line 1. And then if you tap here again, you say, thank you, your proof is complete. So the awesome thing about questions involving proof, if you get to whatever they want you to prove, then most likely your process, your method, your approach is correct. Okay, so this is good. That's it. Let me show you guys another example. Okay, so now this is the second example that I'm going to show you. In this case, they want us to use the information to prove angle 7 and angle 5 are parallel. So given that line A and B, these two lines, they are parallel, we need to prove angle 7 and 5 are congruent. Okay, so you guys might be thinking, for sure, 7 and 5 are congruent because they are, what type, what would the relationship be? Is it alternate interior, alternate exterior, or corresponding? I hope your response is corresponding angles, right? But the thing is, how do we type it, right? How do we type that out? So we're going to start with, okay, given that A is parallel to B, line A is parallel to B, I'm going to put that down. Line A parallel to B, and the reason is it's given to us, okay? Now, let's see, well, so if line A and B are parallel, then 5 and 7, because the lines are parallel, so 7 and 5, the corresponding angles will be parallel, sorry, will be congruent, right? So I can just put that down. So angle 7 is congruent to angle 5. And the reason would be, so let's see what we can use. So we know for sure that the lines are parallel. So we will be looking at if lines are parallel, then what? If lines are parallel, if lines are parallel. Right, so we have all this if lines are parallel because we know that for sure now. It is given to us. Right? It is given to us. So if lines are parallel, then 7 and 5, what are they? They are corresponding angles. So there you go. This is the property I'm going to choose. So I have two lines over here. This is my first line. My first line talk about the given information. And this given information is line A parallel to B, which is my stepping stone, right? Because if lines are parallel, so which means this part, so I'm going to put down line 1 over here because that's my first line over here. That's what that's the line saying that line A and B are parallel. So if I click tap here, thank you, your proof is complete, and that's it. All right. The questions about proof, they are quite different because as you can see, we don't have any values here, right? There's no value, no calculated, no computation, purely thinking process, and try to apply the properties that we have learned from the previous classes, and somehow using the information given to us to prove what they want us to prove. This is the intro. In the next couple of videos, I will show you guys more advanced examples. All right, hope you guys found this video helpful. See ya.